If we're not at a Disney park, we're dreaming about being there, and a cup of Joffrey's Coffee Disney Blend helps. But what about when you're at a Disney park? The Joffrey's Disney Kiosk and Restaurant Locator will make sure you never miss out, whether it's a cool drink on a hot summer vacation or a great cup of coffee at a Disney signature restaurant. Joffrey's has you covered. Check it out at Joffreys.com.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. To our new passengers, aloha and welcome aboard.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott.
I'm Bob Collar.
This is ResortLoop.com, and again, it seems to happen once a month or so. Bob, this is your DVC Roundtable show.
Or so.
You're shocked every time, aren't you?
Every time. Well, last month we did it early in the month, so it seems like an extra long time since we've done it.
It does. I'm surprised they all remember us. They have such busy lives. They're doing, important things, and we're just, I don't know what it is.
Well, the cardboard cutouts help.
You're welcome. We did send them out, cardboard cutouts, full size of the two of us.
Right. Exactly.
So I hope those are in a nice warm place in the house.
I keep them in the bathroom.
No.
Yeah. They're very warm. They're in the fireplace. I
kind of figured. Yeah.
Okay.
Throw up a softball like that, I expect you to swing at it. Absolutely. Right. Well, welcome everybody. We're waiting on Rebecca, but we thought we'd get the show rolling. And Tim, who's going to start us off? Or tell us who's here.
I'm going to tell you who's here. We have Emily Hansa Hicks.
Well, hello everyone.
Yeah, Mr. Brad Coates.
Hey everybody.
And longtime friend of the show, Joe Quattrochi.
Hello, friends.
Also known as Easy Rider.
Yes. Oh. That's a separate show. Like I said, we're hoping we can get Rebecca tuned into the show. She's en route, as they would say in France.
What?
I don't know if France or not.
What happened to you? What happened? Anyway,
Me?
You.
That list is long. That list is so long. Let's go to somebody without any problems. Mr. Brad Coates, what's your first story?
All right.
Lead us off this time.
Well, this is a story that actually, last podcast, I was going to do this one, but we kind of ran out of time, so we said we'd hold off till this one. Well, I guess it's good that I didn't do the one last time, because Disney in their infinite wisdom realized they were people weren't happy with it. So anyway, here's what happened. DVC, Disney Vacation Club, had released their new point charts. So they put out the point charts for 2019 and for 2020. Well, originally the 2019 points a month ago were basically identical. In fact, I say basically, they were identical. I never did find anything that was different between 2018 and 2019. But in 2020, there was a huge change going on in some of the categories, to the point that it almost there was explanations out there trying to explain how Disney could actually. We were always told they couldn't add points to the resort. That once they've sold X amount, that's all the points that can ever be sold for the year, combining all the different rooms, etc. But they were walking it back, showing how they could adjust those points if it was a lockout room and resort, and why they could actually charge more points. But anyway, it was a big change. Well, so now the news article for this month is new revisions to the point charts for the year 2020 have been posted to the DVC members only website. The modifications now revealed that back in December, those ones that I saw, that they're gone, and new charts marked revised, displaying values which are nearly identical to 2019. And so I've gone through about 4 or 5 resorts quickly to kind of go through them, and I think 3 of the 4 resorts were exactly the same. So they basically have gone backwards. Now they've made the 2020 points mirror the 2019 points instead of taking a big hit. Yvonne Chang, the Director of Club Management and Regulatory Affairs, that's a big name. She's a Sumra. She's Kumra. leader, CMRA, announced the reversal last month in a statement posted to numerous online platforms, and indicated that while DVC stands by the appropriateness of the original 2020 rates, management, quote unquote, listened to our members' feedback and decided to more closely align 2020 point values with 2019. But they did make the statement, DVC does plan to further analyze demand and usage patterns as they consider modifications for 2021 and beyond. So they backtracked, which was good. That's
very good. I mean, they're listening to you guys, who are paying the bills. So,
listen, one of the things I was going to share last month was, I've been a member long enough. I remember what it felt like when I bought a certain number of points, and I had it figured out how many days I could do, which times of year I could go, and I was set. But then they did a huge change over 2 or 3 years, when they used to be that weekdays were a lot cheaper and weekends were a lot more. And so I always went Sunday through and checked out on Friday. So it worked out perfect. I got the lower price days, and that worked good for my schedule anyway. Well, as they balanced them out, the truth is you could stay a whole week. It was still costing you basically the same. But I wasn't staying the whole week. So suddenly my points weren't going very far. And I was one of those ones. I was hollering and, why are you doing this to me? I bought just enough points to do this for my family. And then within 18 months to 2 years, I learned how the new normal was, and I figured out how to use my points, and I got busy and bought my second contract. You adjust to these things. But the problem was this time, that point change that they were making from 2019 to 20 sometimes was 12% increase.
Wow.
So it was big. I mean, it was really going to start impacting people who had, I know one gentleman, I think on our Looper Nation site was pointing out he had bought 50 points, and that worked for his family for the days he wanted to go. But he had cut himself so close that there was just no room, no wiggle room. He was going to have to cut back on days, and you felt bad for him because.
So let me ask you guys this: do you think is this because of their anticipation of the Star Wars land opening, or is this that the economy is doing so well? What do you guys attribute that massive jump towards?
Well, I think it's I personally think it's a misestimate of the popularity of the bungalows and the cabins. So I think that they are struggling with the high point value, constantly empty bungalows and cabins. That's my thought. Because
that's part of it for sure.
Yeah.
And the other part is the over interest in studios. People immediately go and rent the studio first. What happens is they run out of studios right away, and then they're struggling to fill the 1s and 2s and above. So that's where the shift was going to be. They were increasing the cost of studios dramatically.
So they were going to. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
And then some of the other ones were going down, but that was the scary part. When you really looked across the board, it's like, well, these went up, 15%. So where's the 15% dropping in these other ones? And you weren't always seeing it.
Right.
So it was very, very intricate and involved. So that supposedly it's to balance out the usage of the rooms to get people to book 1s and 2s quicker than studios.
So let me get this. I'm trying to understand all this. I ain't that smart. Tim will attest to that.
That's true.
What you're telling me is the belief is that because they can't sell the high price stuff, they're going to raise the prices on everything else to force people to or make it look like that's not so expensive. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, theoretically, if there's not a matching reduction in the bungalows or the cabins, or, for example, they talk about a lock-off premium. But I think the big issue, like Brad pointed out, was that you weren't seeing the reduction. So there were extra points for your lock off, but there wasn't any, it wasn't like your bungalow was that much cheaper or anything like that. Am I right, Brad?
That's accurate. And like I said, it's so convoluted. I mean, I tried to track it through, and I'm not the statistician that some of you are. So, but the idea, Bob, is supposedly they would increase the studios, and they were to some extent decreasing the 1s and 2s and the bungalows and the cabins. It's just that they didn't seem to be decreasing them at the rate that they were increasing the bungalows.
Gotcha.
But the people that were upset were the people who had bought just barely enough points to switch.
Sure.
Note to everybody, we've said this forever. If you can only buy the exact number of points you're going to need to vacation, don't buy yet.
Right.
You need to buy a few extra because there's going to be fluctuations in times of the year where it used to be cheap that you want to go, or times where you can't go when you wanted to go, and now you got to go at a different time. You're going to need a few points. So give yourself at least a little breathing room.
Yeah, but Brad, it's one of those things too. It's like we, as DVC owners, we paid that fee up front. So we paid X number of dollars for our contract, and we understand that, like, yes, maintenance is going to go up. But now it's like, okay, now I understand maintenance costs go up. You got to pay your cast members. You got to pay the utilities, bills, taxes. Everybody gets that. But now you feel like, as somebody who rents a studio all the time, it's just Jen and I, we have no interest in a 1-bedroom, although they are very nice. Our friends, Brittany and Justin, had one over Marathon Week at Oak Key West. Was fantastic, but too much room for us. But now you feel like, okay, I bought my contract. I paid my maintenance dues. Maintenance dues will go up fine. But now you feel like you're raising the price on me again. Like,
right.
It's like,
I
already bought into this. I shouldn't have to. It's almost like it's a devaluation of your points.
Yes, it is.
And it's like, for example, I always talk about the timeshare my parents have in Aruba that I'm on the deed on for as well. It's like saying, okay, my parents and I own 2 weeks in Aruba. We bought back in 1995. Well, now it's like, well, those rooms are so popular now. Your 2 weeks just became a week. We need to open up those rooms for other people. It's like, no, that's not the way it works. So I know I maybe sound ignorant with kind of comparing apples to oranges, but like that's the way it feels like as somebody, especially, it's like, listen, I vacation in the quote unquote off season, at least for DVC point chart wise. So it's like I'm doing everything I can to stretch my points,
Exactly.
Now you're just raising because why don't you just build some more studios then? Maybe people don't want the 1-bedrooms or the 2-bedrooms. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way I think that I looked at it, was like that. Okay, you're raising my rate. You're raising my, this has been this rate. I know they've gone through an increase. Like you said, Brad, I wasn't around for that then, but you're raising, like, everything goes up in cost at Disney. We all understand that, but now you're raising my point values again. Like you're raising the price on me when you should be raising the price on me. It's like, enough.
Yeah. The thing is, it's a deeded real estate interest, and it's supposed to be a specific portion. It's supposed to be a specific fraction of the whole and your interest, right? And so if they start changing the fraction, then they're essentially, they're, first of all, your point about inflation is right. And then second of all, I would say that they're messing with the fundamental deeded interest. You know what I mean? They're changing the denominator on that. And if you look at your deed, I don't know about yours, but I believe mine has actually a fraction on it. So it says like it has like a decimal point amount. It says like you own point blah blah blah.
Yes, correct. Yeah, you own
a specific unit.
Value. Yep.
Right. So if you start telling me you can't, like, that I no longer, can rent that same unit every year for the same amount of points, or that fraction of that unit or whatever, then to your point, Joe, like, a week is a pretty easy concept, but because they don't have the fixed weeks, they can get fancy with the numbers on the points.
Exactly.
And I think I really honestly, I could be wrong, but I think what Disney was trying to do was to reallocate for supply and demand and try to get better occupancy rates in the 1-bedrooms and the 2-bedrooms, because I do see those available all the time. Yeah. And I don't think, I doubt it was as nefarious as people are kind of thinking, but I think perhaps they didn't really strategize as well as they should.
And you want to know there's one way to do that, Emily, without like upsetting the whole tribe, is put limits on the people that could stay in a room. So, because even though you're a DVC, you're still having people register to a room through My Disney Experience. So they made a huge thing where now at certain moderates, you can have 5 people stay in a room. If you want to make it where people have to go instead of messing with the point values, say, you know what? You could only have 4 stay in our studio, or
or 2 adults, 2 children,
or that's it. Yeah, they or it's a studio. It's only 2 people. That's it.
Well,
it's a queen bed. That's it. Or like Old Key West Studios, you got 4 because it's 2 queen beds. But you do something like that. I mean, people will still get upset about that, but
So now you've got a whole other group of people that bought and then had a family of 5 and they planned and they were going to stay in studios.
It just seems very recently. We discussed these things. We've been doing this show for a couple of years with Tim and Bob, and it just seems lately it's getting really, really hard to defend DVC because they're just making so many changes, and it's just going to take the wrong person to upset somebody, and they're going to have a lawsuit on their hands because it's like they're altering this, they're doing this, I'm not an attorney, but I don't know. It just seems like they're finagling with a lot of things, and it's like this is like a real estate. You're not just raising hotel room prices here. I don't know. It just seems they're teetering a lot of things, and that'll be like one of our next stories coming up with what you can and can't use things for or whatever. But I don't know. Just like I said, I'm not that smart either, but.
Well,
it's a weird thing because when you buy a share of a DVC, you do not own a studio, or you do not own a 1-bedroom, or you own a share of the resort. And the ability that they have to move those points around works good for them, but it is unfortunate. It's not illegal, but it's unfortunate because it makes it makes their product less desirable.
Yes.
People are just looking at it going, listen, this is too confusing. Like I did look at one of the resorts that doesn't have lockoffs, and I started doing point comparison numbers, and it did look like that the shift, because keep in mind, if you got X amount of points, 20,000. Well, if you have, 50 2-bedrooms, 40 1-bedrooms, 80, and all of those percentages are worth so many points. And so that's why it can make it look like, well, wait a minute, that went way up and that went, oh, well, it's because there's a ton of these rooms over here they're saving on. And they're giving less over here, you know what I'm saying? Because there's less. But anyway, they seem to be accurate. So I'm going to be the defender for this moment. I think that it is still legal. They're legally bound to not increase the points. It's the lockoff thing. And boy, did you even understand that, Rebecca? It's so confusing. It's like, well, there's a lockoff, fee, or whatever they call it. What'd you call it?
Premium.
Yeah, the lockoff premium. And so they do all this to charge you more if you want to do because the lockoff's an advantage over a 2-bedroom.
And the thing is, I think that I think that public opinion will be kind of a check on them, and I do think, to your point, to Joe's point, I think they're getting a little fancy with the details, and I don't think that they realize the impact that's going to have on the brand and the reliability.
It's already having an impact. I had a friend call me up and she's thinking about buying. She booked 3 vacations over the last 3 years, and she's like, I could have did this DVC thing and paid for it already. She's like, but for what I spent for 3 separate vacations. And she's like, I see you're always on your Instagram, you and your wife are in the park. She's like, tell me about it. And for the first time, I had a hard time explaining it to somebody. I was like, well, this is resale versus this, and this is this, and this is that, and she's got all confused. And I was just like, I'm sorry, like, it's what's important to you. And she's like, what do you think? I'm like, I'm grandfathered in, so I really haven't had a thought about it, but it's really hard to explain and defend, and I don't know.
If you bought between these 2 dates, your point, you can do this, but not this. If you bought before that date, then you can do anything. If you buy at this resort, you can't do that. It's like,
let me say this as an outsider that's not part of the DVC. It sounds to me like they are truly listening to you guys. If you guys can change, and it was you guys that did this, can change their rates that they've already published and are ready to go, and they're going to roll those things back and revise them, as they say, quote unquote, revise them. You guys have some say in this, so. I encourage all of the DVC members, not just the Looper Nation ones, but any of them out there. You guys have the voice, and you guys, as much as Disney is in control, you guys do have a great deal of control, and it sounds like you guys exercised that control where this was concerned, and it had a positive outcome for you. So don't be silent. Be nice,
there you go.
But
There
don't
you
be
go.
silent.
There you go. That's the good news. It's convoluted. It's confusing. Joe has it right. It's just getting harder and harder to explain and to defend because it's just, you got to have an aeronautics degree or something.
Right. And being the fact that Joe's grandfathered in all the folks that are grandfathered in, and a lot of this stuff doesn't really affect as far as the resale and that. That you guys need to look to helping, like Joe's saying, he's got friends that want to buy into it. He's having a hard time. Maybe that's where all the DVC members need to get together somehow and say, okay, we see what you're doing. Granted, it doesn't affect most of us, but it's not going to help our resale value either. And you guys got to stop doing this, kind of thing.
Well, and the reality is we're grandfathered in on certain things.
Right.
But if they'd have made this change in points, like Joe said, we'd all been impacted.
Oh yeah, you're stuck. Right.
I mean, right. I'm now, the kids are out of the house. I'm a studio guy permanent now, pretty much.
Sure.
And wow, it would have been drastically different.
I love the 1 bedrooms, the 2 bedrooms, and we almost count on the fact that they're always available. So, I never have trouble getting one. It really is not hard to get a 1 bedroom. And so if there's all of a sudden a huge competition for those, I'm not going to love it. I'm going to be honest. Especially if they don't knock down my point value for it. They better take the point value down if I'm going to be in more competition.
The good news is we don't have to worry about it.
And I'm going to say one last thing, and Emily hit the nail on the head. DVC members more than anybody else are creatures of habit. I know I don't even need to look at a point chart. I know when I go, how much the points are at certain resorts a night. During certain seasons, like Emily knows that she likes a certain type of room at her home resort or wherever, and they start messing with that. You start messing with people's mojo, and Disney fans don't like change. DVC fans really don't like change.
Don't take our maelstrom.
Because we paid for a lifetime of normalcy.
Or
at least 50 years.
The reality of it is, as much as they say welcome home, we're trying to get away from home. Because home's got a lot of problems. we appreciate what you're saying.
Feel reliably like home. We want the nostalgia. We want the nostalgia, the real, like the safeness, but we don't want. We want to get away.
There you go. Well, speaking of getting away, let's move on to story number 2. Emily, what do you got?
And this is a good tie-in because if you have checked out, I think we may have talked about this, but if you check out the room sizes and types that are at the Riviera Resorts they're talking about, they are definitely revamping this resort. It really seems to be like with adult travelers in mind. I don't know if you'd agree, Joe, but you have the tower studios, you have a lot more small capacity rooms, and I think that that's probably observation, like a lessons learned, and why they're building this resort to sort of accommodate all those couples and those smaller groups that travel together, adults mostly. But since we did talk about all the different ways you can use those points and the new resale restrictions, Disney Vacation Club has confirmed that the points for the Riviera Resort purchased via resale will only be valid, get this, for stays at Riviera or trades to RCI. So you can trade into one of the other DVCs through RCI. You can trade through a broker. You could do whatever. But when they're talking about Riviera specifically, you're getting Riviera and RCI once you transfer it. So your timeshare is like literally that's it. And I mean, I don't know about you guys. I think this is a little bit shocking because nearly every other club-based timeshare, like your Marriott's, your Wyndham's, your everything else that's gone point-based, like the Disney system, none of them like restrict you. I don't think upon none. As far as I know, none of them restrict you upon resale to using that home resort only. And I understand that Disney is worried about the resale market. I understand that, but what I think they don't realize is that they are just going to they're going to cripple their new sales because people that are thinking about, well, what am I going to do when I have to get rid of it? what am I going to do when, my kids get it? Now we'll talk about the kids later, but what am I going to do when they start messing with what's happening next? They take away the idea that this is a investment or a real estate interest, and they turn it into a prepaid vacation plan for you and your family that you will get out at a loss with.
They're being short-sighted, and they're going to turn Riviera into a crappy timeshare. That's what they're going to turn it into.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's no incentive to sort of like share the costs, or like there's no the other resorts are constantly, keeping up. When Riviera is just Riviera owners and they can't use it anywhere else. I mean, that's one way to fix supply and demand.
and here's the thing too. I mean, and you guys know this. We're doing it right now. We're talking about it. There's so many people that are talking about this stuff. You've got social media. You've got all these blogs. You got our show. You got the information is out there now. And it's not like back when maybe you guys signed up where you didn't have all this information. You kind of had to go it alone and figure this stuff out as you went. People are going to research it, and they have the ability now to research it. And they're going to say, hold up, why would I buy into this one when I can only sell this one when it comes time to sell? And they can only, people aren't going to want to buy into just one resort when they're going to look at all those other resorts on Disney property. And they're not going to be able to use those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why would
they can use them, right? No, they can't.
Right, you'd be better off buying Copper Creek because this restriction doesn't exist on it. I doubt the points are going to be cheaper.
Right.
It's crazy.
And if you buy direct, you can still stay at Riviera.
Mm-hmm.
And then still sell your points for a value.
Right.
And we know that we know this only applies to resales. We understand if you buy from Disney, none of this is going to apply to you. However, that's like saying you're moving into a new housing development and saying, well, you can either buy from the builder and you have no issues at all, or you move in a year or two later, you buy from somebody who had to move or whatever for a job transfer, but you can't do anything with your property then.
Exactly.
You can't use the pool. You can't use the golf course.
We've used this example before. It just doesn't. It's not a good. It's very short-sighted. And I don't know if a lot of these things are because Star Wars is coming. Was it the 60th? How many years? 50th for Magic Kingdom, right? It's coming up. I don't know if that's what it is, but like once all that's done, like what happens if Star Wars is like super crazy and it's like people are just like, oh, I'm not going anymore because it's too crowded. Like you don't know, like they're putting a lot of eggs into one basket. And let me tell you something. They keep saying that, there's not enough rooms on property. I never have a problem getting a room on property. I just went last night. Jen and I booked a last minute room at All Stars for like $90. All right. Now, granted, it's All Stars. It's not over Christmas. It's not over Easter. I understand that. But like there's always rooms. I don't understand that there's not enough rooms on property. So I don't understand the whole supply and demand thing where it's like, we need more rooms. It's like, you can't fill the ones you got right now for the most part. So,
Copper Creek is still on sale.
And I can't, go ahead.
Oh no, that's it. I'm just, it's not
still on sale. Exactly.
Yeah,
There's
not
still
like
availability.
They can start playing fast and loose with their new properties because there's such a demand.
And with the new properties, it just says, and I hear what you're saying, Joe, because I think all of us have wondered because it's happening at the same time as this, but there's just no logical explanation as to why they would do this, and that would help them with Star Wars. There's only one thing that makes any sense, and that is they're trying to shut down resale.
I mean,
they're just trying to shut
that's
it
all
down.
it is. Yeah, I mean,
which is frankly dumb. Yeah. Because I mean, I get that they're losing.
It's very it's anti-capitalist.
It's also, I mean, the people like me who part of the sale is, well, let me see how much they're going for right now in the resale market. So if I bought them resale, it's like buying a car when you.
Or if I buy it, I know I'll get a good. If you buy, sometimes when you look at a car,
right,
you decide I'm going to buy this one because I know it has a great resale.
Exactly, like that is actually a fact.
I'll go with the
many
Honda.
Magazines that compare, resale.
You know what this is too? We're sitting here and we almost sound like we're kind of complaining about things, but I think the majority of it is we are just disappointed.
Yeah.
Because the three of us, and Rebecca too, because Rebecca rents a lot too. We love DVC. We do this show. We love being on a show with Tim and Bob. And it's like, what are you, it's almost like, it's like, what are you doing? Like we're shaking you like, what are you doing? You're ruining a great thing.
It's a really good product.
And we're not asking you not to make money. Like make all the money you want, but what are you doing? Like stop, DVC, please stop. It's like you're killing us right now.
Well, let's spin this around though. Okay. Yeah. It sounds an awful lot like we're complaining here, but you're also giving, new DVC prospective owners, the information that they need. It's not
to make a decision.
I understand. We understand, Tim and I understand. You guys are disappointed. You're like, come on. But the people out there that are listening that are considering DVC, they need this. This is the information they need.
Absolutely.
And you guys have been there. You guys are in the trenches when it comes to DVC. You've seen good times and bad times with it. And this just happens to be one of those kind of bad times where Disney's making some bad decisions, but it's still a good value if you're gonna be going to the parks or going to Disney an awful lot. It's the best way to go. I mean, I'm not trying to spin it back around to, Disney's wonderful. Cause I agree with you. I think
DVC's not evil and a horrible.
It's definitely not.
They're just making some short-sighted decisions, I think. Yep. And that's, I think, and maybe and honestly, just to your point, Bob, about the other thing, maybe they will come to see that in the short term, because I was thinking about a fun scenario where they put these restrictions on to drive up, direct sales, and then they remove the restrictions later.
Right, but it's time to compete. Disney needs to stop trying to block everybody and compete. Yes. Just compete with if the resale market is the big thorn in your side, don't sit there and try and block it. Compete with it. Make it
amping up the member benefits that are,
guess what?
Absolutely.
They've got right of first refusal.
Right.
Spend the money then. If you want the points back, buy them back.
Buy them back. Give people
and you'll
the value.
Sell them for way more. What are you doing? Come on.
When we were buying Grand Floridian, there were no points available through DVC. We were ready to sign on the dotted line if we could have gotten them sooner. We were told that they weren't going to have them for up to 5 months or something. So we put in for a resale contract, kind of hoping that they would even take that one back and we could buy those points from them. They didn't buy it back. And then we got that contract through ROFR, and then they called us and they said they said they had points for us. They were clearly not those points. But we had already closed that deal. But if they had an inventory of points available when people called,
exactly.
We would have bought from Disney. I'm telling you, this last year.
And I would say I'm not so much disappointed. I'm just flustered. I'm like, I know it's semantics, but I'm confused.
That's definitely a better way of putting it, Brad. Yeah, it's almost like kind of like scratching your head, like, okay.
Yeah, we're not upset. We're just going, what? I don't understand.
How is that going to work?
Right. Yeah. But still given great advice. I mean, if a family's wanting to get into DVC, that they might only think, well, we might only be in it for 10 years. Riviera might not be the one for you.
Right.
Well, and let's hold out some hope. We saw that they caught on that their points charts were not a smart idea. Exactly. I'm kind of hoping that what will happen is once this really gets full bore going, they'll realize they're not selling points at a rate that they wanted to, because people are going, I'm not touching those points, or they're hesitating, and Disney will go, okay, we've just shut down the sales of Riviera because the people buying will not be able to resell, the ones that are educated. It'll slow down enough that they'll stop and rethink this and come up with a better plan.
And remember, Disney never ever has to use a focus group ever again. That's the beauty of social media. All of the podcasts out there, they're done with focus groups. They're listening, and they listen to this show. And
hi, DVC.
Hi, guys.
We still love you.
So they're taking all of this in. They're figuring all of this out and going, that might not be a good idea. We didn't kind of think this through. It's kind of like Meet the Robinsons. If you've seen Meet the Robinsons, where he brings the dinosaur back to get the kid, and the dinosaur's got little hands, and the dinosaur says, I don't think we thought this through. So.
I was going to say, and if Disney, if you're listening, hey, I've got a wait list on Animal Kingdom Concierge for January.
Make it happen.
Give it a little nudge, and I'll see a lot of
Next episode will be just everything
sweet.
All right, let's talk about something positive, Joe. You got anything positive over there?
Yes. Well, with the cold weather here, but spring is around the corner, right? So let's talk about something happy.
Spring baseball, baby.
Yeah, something that that DVC still giving perks to, so some discounts here. So according to the Disney Parks blog, the ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex is at Champion Stadium. It's been home to the Atlanta Braves. As a Mets fan, I'm not a big fan of them, but since 1997, and unfortunately, it's going to be their final season for Braves baseball, or Braves spring training, Grapefruit League baseball at Champion Stadium in Disney World. They've got a new facility they built down in Sarasota County, Florida, that they're going to be starting in 2020. This has actually been pushed back a couple of years. It was supposed to end, I think, like in 2017, and it kind of just getting pushed and pushed and pushed. But they're doing they're having a new promotion here, hosting its final season of Braves baseball and allowing fans to quote unquote catch the magic one last time before the team moves to its new spring training facility in 2020. So if you're an eligible Disney Vacation Club member, so I could if you're grandfathered in, you can save $5 on upper level bleacher and third base lawn seats at select 2019 Atlanta Braves spring training home games. You can go to the DVC member Ticketmaster page and use the code DVC Braves. Games eligible for the member discount include select 105 p.m. games in March. There's other, details and restrictions, the Ticketmaster site. So I'm sure you'll pay a Ticketmaster fee. But just to give you an example of what some of the single game tickets cost, the third base lawn, they start at $18. They go up to $26. The cheapest seats are the Pennant Berm, which is out in the outfield. Those are $15. And they go all the way up to lower level reserves, which are not eligible, I don't think, for the discount, but they go up to $60 is the most expensive ticket. So, if you want to see some, you live in a market where there's not Major League Baseball, or you're a big fan of baseball, want to see some spring training one last time while you're down in Walt Disney World, this is a great way to do it. And if you're an eligible DVC member where you've been grandfathered in, you could save $5 at family of 4. You'll save yourself $20, and they'll buy you a $12 beer and a hot dog. So, but listen, you know what? I've talked about this on, other podcasts and other shows about ESPN Wide World of Sports. This is a great way if you're on, you're down there for a week, but you only have a 5-day park hopper ticket. Make a day at the baseball game where you take the family, go see some baseball. You may go to Disney Springs afterwards. You make it a full day. Instead of being in the park, you make it a day at the baseball park. So, it's going to be sad to see this go away. It's been a staple there for a really long time. I know I've seen my beloved New York Mets play the Braves there, in some split squad games. So it's still cool to go see a game down in Disney World. It's a first class facility. A lot of you guys who are Rocketeers run through the stadium during the marathon.
Oh yes.
But they actually do play baseball in there. But it's a cool facility. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with it. I know they still have other tournaments and stuff there, but it's a pretty nice facility just to sit idle for just certain smaller events. So maybe they can get another team to go in there down the line. But so right now you can get save $5 on a seat. So that's DVC Braves is the code at checkout. And you can go to, and I guess you could always even call up ESPN Wide World of Sports if you can't find the link on it, or DVC Member Services. They'll probably help you out with that as well. So member service, as much as we complain about DVC and the points and this and that and the fees, the member services people are awesome. So
Amazing.
If you're going to have a question, call them up. They'll point you in the right direction. If they're not sure, they'll find out somebody who knows it. But yeah, take advantage of this while it's still there. Last season of Braves baseball. And the Grapefruit League, they play a lot of teams. So maybe your local team that you live, that you follow will be down there playing the Braves, and go see them while you're down in Disney. So there you go.
There you go.
Just a quick aside about the, about member services, because that, with all the things we've said tonight, member services would get in a little rough for a while. You were getting really long wait times. It was hard to make changes to reservations. They have clearly listened to DVCers, because they now have, you can make certain modifications online. Your wait time is very reasonable now. You can get the same advisor, if you prefer a person. So I do think, to Bob's earlier point, they are listening and they are making choices that are in our best interest, which is good because we pay for those staff. So anyway.
And I always love seeing, going back to this actual story, we love seeing discounts. We love seeing it's little gestures that go a long way. Yes, and even if you're not going to go to the game, I just like seeing this. Right. It's out there for members to take advantage of. So by all means, even if you don't use the discount, it's available to you. I like it. So
there you go.
All right, guys, we need to wrap this up in a couple minutes, but we have a question from a listener we want to get to. This is from Linda from the Facebook page. It says, we've listened to your podcast on our drive to and from Disney from Central Pennsylvania. Thoroughly enjoy them. Thank you very much. But they have a question. Have you ever done a show on transferring contracts to your kids?
No.
We have 2 grown children that love Disney, and when we can no longer go, we want them to have access. I've contacted Disney. Can't get a real answer. They have a form available to take to the attorney, but we'd like to know specifics. Anybody know how to deal with this? Thank you. That's Linda. Anybody know, what do we need to do to transfer that to our kids legally?
Gonna defer to Emily on this one.
Well, there you go. And of
That's
course,
what
I give you, that's right. I give you my standard disclaimer, which is that I am not licensed in Florida. And, so you can't rely on me for individual legal advice at all. This is not legal advice, but I did do some research that anyone could do on the web. And I just wanted to sort of give you a summary of what I found, which was, and you will be able to transfer the direct privileges to your beneficiary. It's called a gratuitous transfer, meaning that money is not being exchanged. It's a gift. You may have gift tax implications, so pay attention to that. And there's a couple different ways people do this. Sometimes people add their children on while they're alive so that they're all members together, and then they will the interest to the children, or their remaining interest to the children at death. The problem is that definitely does have to go through your estate planning process or your probate. So that may involve a court where you don't necessarily need one. If you want to just deed it over to your kids or deed it over to whoever, your neighbor, whoever you want to deed it over to, you essentially are following a similar process to a resale. You're going to use it kind of, I think it may even be the same form. I'm not sure. I didn't print out the form, but basically the form is going to designate that this is not a sale, that this is a gratuitous transfer. And you still need to get a title company or a title attorney in Florida specifically to prepare you a new deed. So, or a Florida licensed attorney or a Florida title company to prepare a new deed and go through the estoppel process with Disney. It does technically go through ROFR from what I can read, but it's basically a formality. And there's no sort of reason that Disney would exercise that right in these scenarios unless there was some other bar to that person owning property or the DVC. Like if there was an actual, that person had done something terrible and they would not allow them to have that interest. So, and at that point you could claw back your points anyway. You wouldn't have to go through the sale if they were going to exercise their ROFR anyway. So, those are basically your routes. You go half and half, like you add them now and then you take them off later. I would say that's the trickier route, and it involves 2 changes of title rather than just one, or you just shift it over to them. The only thing is you want to make sure your children understand that if there's an interruption of maintenance fees, that that the deed comes with obligations, financial obligations, and you have to arrange how that's going to work. You know what I mean? Nothing's really ever free, so you still
signed
have to
over
pay
the car,
taxes.
they still have to make the payments.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I'm sure, Emily, like when you said it's going to go through like a probate court or something like that, there will be, because it's going to be a new title or deed, so it's going to have to be refiled with the county, Orange County, Florida. So there's going to be sort of filing fees to re-put it on the books and all that stuff. So I'm sure there'll be other fees on top of that as well.
Right. And again, probate is only if you do it and they have to do it after you die.
No, that's not probate.
Right.
You don't mean like the
Yeah.
That's why I'm not a lawyer. That's
It's
why
kind of like a quick claim deed.
Right.
Similar. Yeah.
So
Well,
and you can't.
Can I add one other thing?
Oh yeah, go.
Because everything you said, that's basically it. I had researched this a while back because we were starting to talk about, okay, when it's time to hand off to our 2 adult daughters. And one thing I will add that I wasn't aware of when I bought, you cannot take a contract and split it.
True. Yes, that's
Give
true.
half to each. You have to give the entire contract. So you can put both their names on the deed, but then they're going to have to get along with each other and figure out how they're going to make sure it's paid because
Well, let me ask you this.
It's,
So when you put both names on a deed, I mean, this could get very convoluted. You put both names on the deed, you get 2 kids. Put both names on the deed, one of them doesn't want any part of it. That person can then just put the other person's name on a third deed?
they could release their interest to the person, but yes, a new deed would have to be
Do it
created.
again.
So
Yep.
you just keep going until.
Or just don't mess with it and if you trust them, leave your name on the deed and they just keep paying the points and using it,
Right.
But just keep that in mind because some people are going, I'll just split it and give half to each kid. Can't do that.
Right. But then, of course, if you do that and you just keep it in your name, your kids will have to deal with it at your estate.
Right. And believe me,
theoretically,
I just went
your will
through
could
that.
say-
That's a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. Oh, jeez. Oh, yeah. And the other thing is the estate, it may be your intention to leave it to your children, but depending on how your will is written and what happens in that process, it could be that intention is not honored unless you have it expressed in your will somewhere.
And Emily, you'd have to be careful too, because if you wanted to quote unquote split it, you couldn't even say, I'll sell to you for $1, because then technically Disney has first right of refusal and they can actually gobble that up.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You can't even do the whole I'm selling my car to my daughter for $1. You can't do that because they'll be like, oh, and they'll gobble it up and it'll be done. So
That's why, and that's probably why it goes through right of first refusal to keep that kind of thing from happening.
Right.
Yeah. And I would talk to a Florida attorney because when you say $1, it usually is to represent that it's a nominal thing. So that might still be okay, but I would check with a Florida attorney.
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
Well, by the way, it's Tim Scott and Bob Collar. If you guys want to will us
Right.
into
Yeah,
any
yeah.
Right.
DVC.
I've already got you guys on mine.
We're going to need a copy of that, Joe.
I don't see who gets the 150 point contract, who gets the 30. I don't know.
Hey, I'm your favorite. Don't forget I'm your favorite.
You're my riding buddy, right?
And Brad,
Guys, thank you very much.
Oh, sorry.
What'd you say, Rebecca? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I was going to say, and by the way, this is Emily, just in case
Oh, I'm sorry.
you're concerned. No, it's okay. I've been confused with worse people. Trust me. Rebecca, I love you. I'll take your identity any day. So I was just going to say that we split our contracts into small little chunks for exactly that reason when we bought direct. And when you buy direct, you can do that. They will slice
When you
it up however
buy,
you
you
want.
can split.
Yep.
Once you give it away, even if you bought direct, doesn't matter. You can't split it once you've purchased it.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Tim, that is all I have for the DVC Roundtable. We miss you, Rebecca. We can't wait to have you on.
Yeah.
We do. Hope we'll have
I'm
Rebecca on.
impersonating you.
She was here. I welcomed her in several
In spirit.
times.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's right. Emily, where can people find you?
They can find me hanging out with you guys, and down in Disney World for Princess. So look me up on Facebook, Emily Jean, Libra Nation Live. And I'd be happy to try to hook up with you. I've got some pins.
Yes, she does. How about Mr. Brad Coates? Where are you?
And, hanging out here, Resort Loop Live, hanging out on the podcast. You'll see me at Disneyland in May.
Nice.
So if you're going to be out there in May, give me a shout out on Facebook. And I'll be in Disney World in January. So
Awesome. And Joe Quattrochi.
You can find me on Twitter at JoeQuat. That's JoeQuatt. You can also find me over at the Mickey Dudes podcast. And best of luck to all the Resort Loop Rocketeers and all of everybody who's running the Walt Disney World Princess Half Marathon Weekend. Presented by Pandora.
Go, Emily, go.
It's not going to be pretty.
Have fun, enjoy it. That's what it's all about.
Have a
Deal.
great
Yep.
time.
Awesome. I'm Tim Scott, Facebook, Twitter, the website ResortLoop.com. If you have a question for the DVC Roundtable, send it over to us.
Absolutely. And like us on Facebook, rate us on iTunes, subscribe to the show on YouTube. And what else should folks do, Tim?
Please share the gateway to the magic.
See you, everybody.
Vacation memories will stay with you and your family for a lifetime. The Resort Loop Travel Group was created with this in mind. Our fee-free services will relieve you of the stress and confusion of finding and booking the best vacation at the best price. After booking, we will continue to monitor for ways to save you even more on your vacation. We will check for any upcoming packages and discounts to save you as many vacation dollars as possible. Resort Loop Travel Group, gateway to your magical vacation memories. Get a quote, or for more information, visit ResortLoop.com.